Hi everybody, this is Beth and I am back today with a project share and tutorial of a reversible holiday letter block set. So I'm going to be making a block set, like a letter block set, and it will say Happy Fall Y'all on one side and Happy Halloween. You can turn it around and it'll say Happy Halloween on the other. And this project is a part of my bigger overall June Kilopad project where I'm using this die cuts with a view fall and Halloween stack. And yes, I did say it's my June Kilopad project and we are into July. I realize that. But I didn't start this until late June, and then July's just been crazy busy. We've been trying to cram summer break into the last few weeks. But anyway, I'm finally getting back to it, getting busy. And out of that pad, I chose 3 patterns that were Halloween-y, like the orange and the black. And then I chose some fallish, kind of their pastel-y fall patterns. They have like the lighter orange and the turquoise and a yellow. And decided to make this block set. Now, for our business, Bourbon Creek Crafts, we actually make several variations of these reversible holiday block sets. And most of the paper that I've already used out of that pad, because I was down to, out of the 180 that the pad came with, I was down to 124 pages left when I started my Kilopad project. So most of those pages that were used, I actually used on our Thanksgiving, Happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas reversible block sets. And I don't know why I never thought to use them for our Happy Fall and Halloween set, since it is a fall and Halloween pad. That seemed like it would be a logical choice, but it's just not one I've never made till now. Anyway, I am starting with, for the blocks, these are pine 2x4s that have been cut down, sanded, and stained. And the blocks that the letters are going on are all 3 1/4 inches wide. That's just what the 2x4 really is once you sand it down. It's kind of what it comes to. But then the height of the blocks varies. These 2 big blocks on the end are 6.5 inches tall. The next blocks in, the smaller ones, are 4 3/4 inches tall. And then this middle block is 5.5. And I can put these dimensions down in the description below as well. And then we also have a long block down here at the bottom that the Fall Y'all message is going to go on. And it is about 2 1/4 inches wide by 10 1/4 inches long. And then these are all just the standard thickness too of a 2x4. It's like about 1.5 inches. So really the only cuts you have to make are the lengths that you want them. But anyway, we have stained these, with an ebony stain, so it gives it that dark brown color. Next, I went through and used my silhouette to cut down letters out of the papers that I had chose. And the blue, well actually, I'm not using the blue on this particular set. I've used it on a different set. This one is just the orange and kind of that lighter striped color pattern paper. And I just use my silhouette to cut out the letters. We do another set that's more of a paper background. And so I'll show you here. I did use the blue on this other set, like to cover this block down here. But when I cut my letters, I can actually cut both of these at the same time. So I just set my silhouette to cut out the square and the letter that's inside. And so I get kind of 2 sets out of each letter set that I cut. This is my favorite version with the paper, more of the paper on the background, just because I like the color. But a lot of our customers prefer more of the simplistic version, cleaner version, I guess, with more of the wood showing through and just a little bit of pop of color in the letters. So we're going to make this set today. I've also got some vinyl here that I've cut with my silhouette that says Fall Y'all. You could easily use paint on this block as well. I just have some vinyl that I'm trying to use up. So I wanted to keep that simple. I have a high-tech piece of wax paper here that I'm going to be working on just to protect my work surface from the Mod Podge glue. And I do adhere all of the letters with Mod Podge, and this is the Mod Podge matte. And then I pour my Mod Podge into this handy little container that came with like a Mod Podge kit that we bought a long time ago, but you could pour it into anything. I used to use a paper bowl, you know, like a paper plate bowl, or even sometimes a plate if it was deep enough, but just because I can't get my big old brush in that little top on the gallon jug. But then I also have a simple sponge brush. And you don't need this. This is just something I like to use. It's a scraper. I don't really know the official name of it, but it's kind of like a scraper, but it was also in that Mod Podge kit. And if you work with vinyl, it reminds me of just the vinyl scraper that you use to make sure that the vinyl adheres properly. I just use this to make sure that the paper goes smooth, that it gets all of the bubbles out, and that it's going to adhere well. I've also got some transfer tape that I will use to put my vinyl on. And I think that's it. So what I will do is I will kind of speed the video up a little bit for the process part, but then I will talk you through each of the steps, and we will get this set made. All right, here we go. The first step is to apply the Mod Podge on the top of the block as well as on the back of the paper. And you just want to make sure you get an even coat on both so that it will all stick down really well. And it's also good to try and center it as best you can before you push it down, because you can't always slide it around. If you don't have a lot of Mod Podge on there, it won't slide. So it is where it is unless you peel it off and start over. But then I smooth it down really well to make sure all the air bubbles are out or any excess glue is out. And here we are on the second letter again. Glue on the block and the glue on the letter. And this one I have to kind of pull up and reposition a couple times before I get it right. And then I push it down with my finger just to make sure it's going to stay in place. And then we'll come back with the scraper and do a light but firm pressure. If you press too hard, you can tear the paper, and I have done that many, many times. And you can see when I'm using the scraper, I kind of put it against my palm off screen at the bottom there. And I'm just wiping off the excess glue from the end of the scraper, because when you go across the block, it picks up some of that glue. And I try not to wipe that across the top of the letter, because if it dries, then that can also tear your paper when you're trying to press it down. All right, and we're on the last letter for this side. And you can see why I use the wax paper, because I'm not overly neat when I'm putting the glue on the back of the paper. The wax paper lets me be messy and fast without getting glue all over my work surface. So once I'm finished with this Y, I'm going to set it aside, and then I will start back with the H and turn it over to work on the back side of it. And it has dried enough that I can put it face down. And yes, I am putting the Y, the Halloween Y, on the back of the H, and that's just for business purposes. When we go to craft shows or when our sets are in a store somewhere, they're usually on open shelves that can be seen from both sides. And by putting one side on backwards, it lets the set be read correctly from either side that you're looking at it. And also, when we are at craft shows, people want to know what's on the other side, and so we'll have them step around to the back of the shelf. And even if it were to say happy backwards, they could see the patterns, but they always want to rearrange it so it reads correctly when it's facing them so that they get the true picture. So we just go ahead and do that when we make them so that they're not always rearranging everything on our shelves. If I'm making a set just for myself, I will put, the H on the back of the H, the A on the back of the A, etc. But this way just works better for our business purposes, our craft show purposes. If you don't have the equipment or aren't comfortable cutting down the 2x4s on your own, Lowe's will do that for you. You just have to tell them the sizes that you need. And then like our stain we just got from Lowe's as well. We started doing these because it was a way, my husband's a woodworker and I am a paper addict. So these kind of were the perfect way that we can combine both of our loves and work together for a business. So that's kind of how we got started. So I'm always looking for new ways to use paper on wood. I have sped up this portion of the video about 2.5 times, so the real time of the process was about 26 minutes. So we figure it's somewhere under half an hour to complete each set, like through all of the steps, not including dry time. It's a pretty easy process, just very repetitive. The hardest part is just making sure you get everything centered and lined up correctly. And here we are on our final piece. And once I get this H down, I will do the vinyl words on that long block there. And then afterwards I will come back in and do a full coat of Mod Podge over all the blocks to help seal the paper down. Some people like to do that right after they put the letter on and then smooth it down. I prefer to just make sure it's down. I guess it's the best way for me to ensure that I'm not going to have as many air bubbles. I've had better luck this way than I have putting the glue on and then smoothing it down. But here I put my transfer tape down on top of the vinyl words and smooth it down, press it down with really good pressure using my scraper. You can also use a credit card. And I also go from the back because I'm using a piece of transfer tape I've used many times already. And then I like to peel the back of the vinyl off, like the backing from the vinyl off rather than the transfer tape, because it tends to help the letters stick to the tape better. And then I will center my words, make sure they're centered on the block. Press it down and then go over it with another really firm amount of pressure, pressing the vinyl down. Peel my transfer tape off. And I will go ahead and put it on my next word just to keep it from rolling onto itself. And then I take the scraper and go down on each letter again with more firm pressure just to make sure, just to add some extra pressure so that we're sure it's going to stick and stay. And so here I'm working a little harder than I probably need to because I'm using an older piece of tape. And I'm struggling to get the backing off because I used the older piece of tape. But I get it. And center that one, press it down. And then go back over it with the scraper just to make sure, and it's good. So now here I am, I'm going to put my coat of Mod Podge on each block to seal everything in. And on these longer blocks, I have to do it in a couple steps because my fingers aren't long enough to reach like the full 6.5 inches to hold it top and bottom. But on these smaller blocks, I can do the whole block because I can hold the top and bottom and do the sides. And then I can set the block down, use my nail to hold it in place, and do the top. My husband can do this a little bit faster because his fingers are longer, his hands are bigger. He can hold those bigger blocks and do the whole block at once. But this is how I have to do it. And I will put one coat on now, let it dry for an hour or two so that it can cure and set. And then I will come back in and do a second coat over the whole blocks, let that dry, and then I will come back and do the bottoms and then the sides of those 6.5 inch blocks. So you will have to allow some dry time in between each coat, because if you handle it again too soon, you'll leave fingerprints in the glue. And while the glue does go on white, it does dry completely clear. So even if you're putting a thick coat on, it'll be clear when it dries. And I also do put a coat of glue on the vinyl blocks, even though the vinyl is self-stick. This just helps protect the block and the vinyl. And we put a polyacrylic sealer on top yet. And if you put the sealer directly on the vinyl, it tends to leave like a scaly snake effect on the vinyl. So this helps it to go on smooth. And there we are. All right, once we have applied that second coat of Mod Podge on the blocks and have given them time to dry, we come back in with this polyacrylic sealer from Minwax. It's the clear matte. And we just apply 2 coats of it as well, just with a foam brush, just like we did the Mod Podge. And this is not a required step by any means. It's just something that we do to add an extra level of protection for the blocks since they get shipped. And, you know, traveling to and from the craft shows and getting knocked around, things like that. It's just extra protection for us. So here is, I actually pulled in a set I had done earlier since the other set hasn't quite dried on the other side, but I just wanted you to see, here is the Happy Fall Y'all side. And again, you flip that around, and again, we do it reverse on the other side just so that for our craft show booth displays, you can actually see, read it right from both sides. And then on the other side, you have Happy Halloween. So you can display what I do is I keep Happy Fall Y'all. I put it up in, say, September-ish sometime. And then in October, I'll flip it around to Happy Halloween. And then sometimes I'll even, depending on when I put my Thanksgiving stuff up, I'll even flip it back to Happy Fall Y'all for a while after Halloween. So two holidays, 2 seasons, and 1 decoration. And it's a great way to use up your scrapbook paper for decorations in your home. If you have any questions on this process, anything I failed to mention, or anything you have more questions on, please be sure to let me know in the comments below. I hope you have found this project fun and helpful and a different way to use up your scrapbook paper. If you liked the video, please be sure to give me the thumbs up and subscribe, because I do have several more projects that I'm going to try and share from this June paper pad in July. So I'm trying to share those as I go, since some of these projects are a little bit more in depth. And then hopefully I can get that project wrapped up and show you what all I've made. Thanks again for your time today, guys. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye for now.